What's up, Oasis people?
Hey.
We are so excited to be with you. We are here on the Oasis Podcast, and we have a vocab lesson for you to start.
Oh,
Because we're going to talk about why words are important. And a year ago, we did a similar podcast, but it's just this conversation is so practical to our everyday lives. We wanted to circle back around and give some more ideas on it, talk about a little bit more application. So tune in and check that out. But first, let's teach the people what our favorite word currently is, and then double down and go with your least favorite word.
Okay.
Yeah, are we doing favorites first, and then are we doing both?
Whatever you do, just make sure you clarify the people. I don't want them to get it backwards, and they start saying your least favorite word to you is your favorite.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear the least favorite word.
Yeah.
Who's going first?
You want me to go first?
Go for it. Sure. You never go first.
I don't ever go first. So I do like vocab. When in high school, did you guys do the vocab books where you had tests?
Nope.
No?
No. You had vocab in high school?
Yeah, through like probably junior year.
Like as part of English class?
Yeah, in English class.
I feel like at that
That's
point
gross.
we were just doing reading at that point.
Oh, no, they would give us like a vocab book, and like every week you'd have 8 to 10 words. You had to memorize the definitions and those things.
Wow.
I can't believe you guys didn't have that.
I got
English class.
vocab in like history and Spanish, but not
No,
in,
this
like,
was just like
English.
words. Like you would find synonyms of different words,
Oh.
which synonym is a nice word.
That is a nice
As a
word.
little kid, I always said cinnamon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
You never
of
knew.
course.
But one of the words, it was junior year. Maybe it was sophomore. It was one of those 2 years. I learned the word copious.
That's a good word.
You use that a lot, I feel.
Copious is nice.
Copious.
It just means a
It
lot
flows
for those who are listening. But copious is probably one of my favorite words.
Same
Alright.
with like plethora.
Plethora, that's a
That's a
nice
good
one.
Means a lot.
Means a lot. Good. Do you want me to go least
Nice.
favorite, or do you guys want to go favorites?
Let's do all favorites first,
Okay,
and then we'll go
Yeah.
back. Okay.
Happy then sad.
Go for it.
I told them this the other day. My favorite word to say is acetaminophen.
Oh,
yep,
yeah.
Yep.
That
And then
is-
we talked about whether it's
Spell it for us.
acetaminophen or acetaminophen. I don't know. I've always said acetaminophen. I could probably, if I thought about it really hard, spell it, but I don't want to try
I
it.
can't even try. And that one is for the lay person listening. Which one is the brand for that? It's like Tylenol.
Tylenol? Is
Okay,
it? Yeah.
yep. All right.
I think so.
I don't know.
I think so. But it's just a fun acetaminophen.
Acetaminophen. That's nice.
It's just a good word.
Phyllothalene.
That's a good word, too. I couldn't think of that
If
one.
you guys watch
phenolphthalein.
Phenolphthalein. Whatever. If you guys watched the sermon, you would have saw my semi-successful sermon illustration
2 weeks ago, yeah.
2 weeks ago, where I used titration.
Yep.
And
That's
the word.
phenolphthalein.
Phenolphthalein.
Dylan taught us that word. I bought it on Amazon. I didn't even know what it was. Anyways, what's yours favorite?
Fat.
With the F?
P-H-A-T?
No, F.
Just fat.
I just say it all the time.
Give me it in a sentence.
Got a fat haircut.
No, bro. I feel
So
like
it's
that
like
should
a
be
good way.
PH.
Okay, then it's pH.
Either way, he just
Either way, I just say fat. Like
It's fat.
if,
Take a
if
fat
something's
nap.
good, it's
I love
fat.
that.
Yeah, I'll take a fat nap.
Yeah. I
You
get
do
that.
say that sometimes.
I do.
Now
I
that
say
you
all
say
I've said
that,
on
I
the
hear that.
podcast
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
In my head, it's PH always.
Okay,
For
sure.
that.
I've
For
never
that.
I
really
don't spell
thought
it.
about
I
it,
just say
but-
it.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's why I misspell everything.
Okay, let's go backwards. You go least,
Okay.
and then Jaena, and then I'll finish.
Okay.
My least is sopping, just like when something is sopping wet.
Ooh.
Because my mind immediately goes to like when food is sopping wet. Like
Ugh.
you think of like
Gross.
a hamburger that you got to eat with a fork and knife because it's just so.
Stop.
Gross.
Next. Sopping makes me think mopping. So now I'm thinking it's dirty, wet food.
I think of like when you get the food in the sink after you've like done your dishes, you didn't rinse them off
oh.
or scrape them very well. Like
The
that's
piece of bread and it's soggy. Oh,
I
it's
dropped a pretzel
sopping.
in the sink the other day and didn't realize it, and then when I moved all the dishes to wash it, it was just like soft in the bottom. I was like, gross.
Things that are squishy that aren't supposed to be
Yeah.
squishy.
It's gross. Jaena, keep going.
Squishy's a good word. Okay, the first one I thought of is I hate when people use the word female to talk about all women. It's very condescending sounding.
Oh, you think?
It's like you females. All those females, all you females. It's just very
What is
condescending.
the better?
I don't know.
Educate us
Just
males.
women.
at the
Just say women. Or don't lump us all together. Because usually it's used in a context when it's like stereotyping. and,
Okay.
like lumping.
Okay.
But
Females is your least favorite word.
probably. It was the first one that came to my mind
Fair enough.
that I don't want to hear.
Fair enough.
So that's why it's my least favorite.
Here's mine. I hate the word sure.
I know you do, and I use it all the
I
time.
hate
I think
the
about
word
it every
sure.
time I accidentally text
Yes.
it to you.
So you say, hey, you want to do something? And someone says sure. To me, that's like, you don't really want to hang out with me. You
Yeah.
just said that.
But when I say sure, it's always with a sure.
You better have an exclamation point then, because if it's coming across as just a sure, or like, hey, are you good with that? And then they're like, sure. It's like, you're not actually. I don't feel like you're actually good with that.
I know I'm guilty of this. I say sure, like just out of the context of like, yeah, like it's the same thing as like saying no problem.
Oh,
like I get it's that. Me being totally okay with it. I'll say yeah, sure. Like I don't have any problem. Like of course.
That's why I use it too.
And yeah, sure is a little different. Yeah, sure is a little different because you give me the affirmation and then
getting into the no, yeah.
Then you tweak the sure in there. But most of the time when people just answer sure, I get this gut feeling where it's like you're just trying to appease me and you don't actually want to do the thing I just asked you to do.
But is that like, do you feel that way anytime someone says it or just when they text it?
Says it too. I don't like.
You don't like pick up on the intonation of the way they say it?
I think you got to get pretty excited about your sure for me to get on board with it.
Because some people are like, sure.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, yeah, they're not really bored.
But even if it's like a sure.
Okay.
I'm out.
Okay.
For sure. For sharks.
For sure is a little different. For sure is a little different. You gave me the affirmation and then the sure.
Okay.
I say for sure.
For is an affirmation?
Yeah. It's giving you the little extra oomph. It's like the exclamation point, but it's on the front end. For
sure.
For is the accent.
If I'm texting and I put for sure, I'm saying for sure.
Yeah, for sure. See? Okay, let's move on.
I just hate saying yes. So boring of a word.
It works though.
Yes.
Yeah,
Anyways.
it's boring too.
Yeah, if someone says yes, I'm a little bit more concerned.
If someone says yeah, I take it the way you take sure.
Okay.
If they just say yeah.
All right.
But
see, we're learning things.
Okay.
Now, as you interact with us, you know the trigger words we have and the ones that you should use more.
Just for those that are listening, that I know this is a heavy moist.
Oh yeah, people don't like that.
People are gonna turn off the podcast right now.
Yeah, we gotta move on.
I think that's weird. I have no problem with that word. But anyway,
I say it because I think it's funny.
We have to get something done.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So words are very, very important. Even though we were just kind of throwing out words left and right here, but we can use them so flippantly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. It's our means of communication. Anything that becomes. I mean, the word holy. Stop. The word holy, and when Ben has talked about it in his message a month ago, probably at this point, he talked about set apart. So then unholy can just mean common, and words for us have become unholy. They're just common. We just use them so flippantly. It's how we communicate. It's what we communicate. It's our everyday is words. And because of that, we don't often think about the things we're talking about. We don't put a lot of energy or effort into making sure that our words are good and life-giving and God-glorifying. We think about the cultural statement that says, think before you speak, yet how many people do that?
No,
we're
lazy.
We are, laziness maybe is a part of it. And I think more it's just lack of intentionality.
Yeah.
And the intentionality takes energy. So maybe that's why people don't get over the hump, but we just don't think about trying to think about our words.
Yeah.
So let's jump into Proverbs to start. And we're going to read you 5 verses that are a summation or a glimpse of what the Proverbs has to say, but not a whole picture of it.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
What's the purpose of Proverbs for those who maybe don't know quite as much?
That's
as
great.
What it
Proverbs is the book of wisdom.
Yeah.
So Solomon wrote a good chunk of Proverbs, but he is the wisest man to ever live, and he was just kind of tweeting out. We like to joke.
Yep.
He was writing these one-off statements or series of statements that would teach us how to live life. And so Proverbs is this book trying to teach you in wisdom what it means to live life. Is that good?
Yeah, perfect.
Right. Read away.
Should we just go around the circle?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue.
Oh, we're going clockwise. You're up.
Proverbs 2:18 says, "There's no one whose rash words are like a sword thrust, but the tongue of the wise brings healing."
Proverbs 15:1. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger.
16:24. Gracious words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body.
And 21:23 says, "Whoever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps himself out of trouble."
So if we were to kind of group these together and take away a concluding thought, what do we feel like the Proverbs is saying when it comes to words?
That it matters what you say.
Yeah.
That your words have power, that your tongue has the power to bring death and life. And the way that you choose to use it has great implications.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's recognizing the power of something should lead to the way we use it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. If our tongue holds the power of life and death, it can either bind up and heal and restore and bring good things, or it can tear down, hurt, and kill other things.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Let's start with life. What does it mean for the tongue to bring life?
Yeah, the tongue is a place where encouragement, and you use the word of healing, can come about, and the words that we speak to other people can speak the healing of God into different situations, can rewrite false lies, can rewrite just things that people have maybe believed or have been said to them that just aren't true. And so there's the space in our words to speak life back into people who are struggling, hurting, healing, or maybe even dead in different areas of life.
Dead metaphorically.
Yeah.
We're not trying to.
Well.
Well.
Yeah.
So let's give some examples. What do you think it looks like in your life, or what have you seen, or it's been done to you, where words have given you life? It's encouraged you, it's built you up, it's healed you, or you've done it for others.
I think even like just the times for me when people have come up and said like, hey, like I appreciate what you're doing and what you do matters. Like a lot of the times, a lot of things that a lot of people do is stuff that is unseen that people don't see the labor behind, but they see the fruit. And even just from seeing the fruit, they can just take it as the fruit and say, okay, well, it just is what it is. But without seeing the intentionality, the time, the labor behind that it took, and recognizing that and giving them like what is due of them, just saying like, hey, like what you're doing matters, like, and you've done it well.
Yeah. You think of any?
I think for me, one of the things I really struggled with in college as I was stepping into places of leadership is that I often got overlooked. So I'd get passed over for job positions or just different things where I could have stepped into leadership and was ready to and had the abilities to, but was overlooked by people above me. And so when I came here, I carried a lot of that of like, I just wasn't worthy. I wasn't qualified enough. And having staff people and church people.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Or, just different things like that. Speak life over me. It's like, no, like you are actually anointed. God is actually working through you. You are actually talented. You have skills. I think has been really, really critical for me and really taking hold of the call that God has given to me.
That's so good. I'm going to take both of those together, find a common theme, and that's what it's meant to me, is words have this ability to give life to the spaces that aren't seen. Right? For both of you, there's this story that you're wrestling with, this identity, and it's the same for me. The places where the words have given me the most life is when I'm wrestling with who am I? Am I wrestling with, am I doing the right thing? Those things. And someone will come and give me a word of encouragement and it just brings me life.
Oh, yeah.
You preach a sermon, you step into a relationship, you have a conversation and you're like, I don't know if that went well, or you do a project at work or whatever it looks like for you, and you're wrestling with the insecurity and the doubt, and someone says, hey, I really appreciated that, or I appreciate you, or like I value what you're doing. And it's that place where they probably don't know all that's going on inside of you.
Yeah.
Yet words, when they're spoken in encouragement, bring life like to any situation. Right? Like even if you were in a really, really good spot and you're like super happy on the mountaintop, no encouragement is going to probably bring you down.
Yeah.
But it's when you're in the hard places, when you're in the depths in the valley, when someone brings that word of encouragement, it can pick you up. So that's just the beauty of life there. Let's flip the script.
Yeah.
What does it mean for the tongue to bring death?
A slander, gossip, just like pure attack. I think especially we know nowadays with, the keyboard warriors that love to tear people down. That you go to any comment section on any social media, on any platform, you're going to find someone who's tearing someone down, who are using their words for that of death, to only to pull down, to lift themselves up. Usually it can come out of pride, of knowing that like you are low and wanting to be like built up and brought up. And so the only way that you know how to do that is to pull others down. Otherwise it can just come from like general, like just hatred towards the idea, towards a person. But yeah, it is only meant to be destructive, to tear down what has been built up.
Yeah, and that's, I love that piece you brought in, where when I think about words, I think about spoken word, like the words that come out of our mouth, but the things we type, the written word, impactful as well. The things you'll text, the things you'll type, the things you'll comment. That'll get you. What are some examples? Do we have any that maybe places we have struggled to use our words wisely, or others have wounded us or hurt us by their words? This is real. Let's do it.
You can go first.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up playing hockey, so like I knew every single bad word in the book. I heavily degraded people. Like if I needed to say something to get you down, I did it. It was like, so that was so easy for me. It was like, you were on the other team, like you were getting like every word from my mouth was not going to build you up. And even like on the other end of receiving that, like I get to see like all the comments we get on like the Oasis Instagram or like the Oasis YouTube or stuff like that. Like a lot of those aren't nice. Like there are some ones that we're getting like, wow, you really typed that. And like it hurts.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not even the one like receiving the hate sometimes, but just reading it is like, that sucks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I have definitely struggled with using words flippantly. And it's something that I feel like God has convicted me on continuously throughout my life. And so there have been many, many times where I have said something to someone with no intention to be hurtful or to be unkind, but said something in a flippant way and not in a careful and intentional way and hurt someone and had to come back and say, I am sorry that I've said that. And sometimes there has been the cost of relationship disconnect and brokenness in that I've had to wade through hardship because of the words that I flippantly said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the, I didn't put this in like any of my prep for this, but it kept coming up and I have struggled with it. In the Proverbs say it, and I think it's somewhere in James too, but the idea that many words bring trouble. So like Proverbs, I think it says, when the tongue is let loose, transgressions are bound to follow. So there is something about the quantity of words we speak that lead us to a place where temptation and this death is more prevalent. You know, just by how much you speak can be part of the downfall of what you say. Because same thing, you're just saying, you're just talking, you're just in relationship, you're conversating, you're doing those things, and all of a sudden it's that one thing you said, that one mistake, that one comment that you didn't mean to hurt, but you weren't watching your words carefully, and so you were just kind of letting the stream flow of your words, and all of a sudden something trickled in there that wasn't loving, that wasn't kind. I have done that 1,000 times.
I think even the excess of words can bring death when it doesn't allow space for other people to also speak.
Yeah.
Like we've all had that person that just talks the whole time. You're like, I don't want to hang out with them. They just talk and they, like it doesn't feel like a mutual relationship. So sometimes that excess of words can bring life even when you don't say anything hurtful.
It's squeezing out all of the life. It's squeezing out all the life in the relationship.
In the space,
you're filling up anything that could be life with your words, and that's real. Let's jump over to the New Testament. Let's talk about some verses there that are pretty straightforward and aggressive when they talk about the language that we use. So let's read each one. Just take one. So go ahead.
Yeah, Ephesians 4:29 says, "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, so that may give grace to those who hear you."
Matthew 12:36. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give an account for every careless word they speak.
Oof.
Yep.
James 1:26. If anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless.
I'll ask the same question we did when we talked about Proverbs, but if we had to summarize some of this talk here and the idea of the New Testament, I know we only use 3 verses. There's a lot more there. What would we say the New Testament says about words?
Again, it matters what you say.
Yes. If we wanted to drive home one point from this, I wonder what you would think it could be. It very much matters what you say. And even the severity of those texts, right? Ephesians, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouth. Jesus says in Matthew 12, every single careless word you speak, you will be held accountable for. And James will tell you that if you're unwilling to bridle your tongue, your religion is worthless. Oof, like, come on, pull a couple punches here on us, New Testament. But the words are so important to the way we live because they're revealing stuff about who we are, what we believe. It's our form of communication. It's the way we connect as people. And so if we're not willing to steward those well, essentially the scripture is telling us we're not living like Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, even as like Christians, I mean, going through the series that we are Sunday morning of being different, like as Christians, we're called to be different. So if we speak like the world, okay, that's the first thing that people are probably going to literally hear from us, receive from us. So if we speak like everyone else and like we have an unbridled tongue, like that's really like, okay, why are you so special as a Christian?
Yeah.
Like what makes you so special? Like, cause you're not different. You're not being made holy, being made set apart, like in those areas where you're blending in with the world, which is what we're called to do the exact opposite of, is to be completely different from the world. So that's why like, I think there is so much severity in these texts in the New Testament. It's like, because we're supposed to be different.
Yeah. So what is it? Oh, you're going to go jump in.
I was going to say, one of my biggest pet peeves is Christians that will use this Ephesian text of no corrupting talk to only talk about swear words or cuss words and don't take into consideration the other two that we shared, especially James 1:26, that our religion becomes worthless, our faith and the words we speak, not our faith, our religion becomes worthless if the words we speak aren't uplifting. Like, and how many Christians speak corrupting talk on things that's not fitting for an occasion that brings death and lose their religious influence in the people and the lives around them because they won't bridle their tongue. And like, we don't want to talk about that very often. It's like, oh, I don't swear. So it's like,
it's like
no,
it's
it's
like
not
the prayer
just
request gossip. Hey, let's pray for this person because they're struggling with this.
It's not just that you don't say the cuss words that you think are wrong, but it's you speak death over people in a lot of other ways.
Yeah, and there was a quote, I don't remember by who, but essentially someone said that your life might be the only Bible people read. So when what that means is when they look at your life, they're assuming you're living in a way that is in accordance with the faith that you have. So if you're living in a way that is contrary to the way of Jesus, so you are speaking corruptly, not just with swear words, but in other ways, they're assuming, oh, that is the way of Jesus. And they're like, that looks exactly like the world. So they're assuming Jesus is just like the world. Because they maybe will never pick up the scriptures and read Ephesians for themselves. So they're assuming the way you live is the way they're supposed to live as Christians. And that's dangerous if we're not following Jesus closely.
And I think the biggest reason that the world calls Christians hypocrites is because of the words that we speak.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the way we use our language, and it doesn't match Jesus.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my soapbox for the day.
That's good. Let's get it. So how do we speak and how do we change the way we speak based on the fact that we are Christians and we want to live like Jesus?
Yeah. The most important thing is to let God change your heart. Like, it's not about just trying harder or cutting certain words out or not doing things, but let God truly change your heart. It's not an effort that you put in, but as you engage with God, as you come closer to him, as you draw near, you'll begin to reflect who he is. So you can look in Luke 6:45, Luke says, or Jesus says, for the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. And so what is in your heart is what's going to come out. And so if you struggle with language that is not uplifting, that's not bringing life, but is instead bringing death, what's in your heart that's fostering that? And how do you surrender even that to God and allow God to change your heart?
I'm trying to think of a good analogy for this. I think the Bible paints this analogy somewhere in the New Testament, but the idea of that fresh water and salt water cannot flow both from the same stream. Is that James?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just giving James all the credit today.
Let's go, James.
But that's a good analogy. If your heart is full of salt water, this bitter water that's not good for anything, what flows out of that can't be fresh water. So you might be able to squeak a little nugget here or there of some wisdom or truth and make your words look like Jesus, but ultimately what is in you, what the source of is in you, is going to flow out. And so you got to change what's in the depths of your heart.
James 3:11.
All right, let's go. Shout out James. What are other things we can do when we're looking at our lives trying to reflect Jesus with our words?
Speak encouragement. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 paints this perfectly. Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. This, of course, was a letter written to the Thessalonians, the church in Thessalonica. And he says to continue to do that. Because they were already doing it. So that like they're living in that closeness of God. I think I can guarantee you can go back through the scriptures. God's never going to down talk somebody. Like we are supposed to be like a perfect reflection of Jesus. That's who we're called to be, is we're called to live like Jesus. And I can go back and confidently say that you're not going to find Jesus talk bad about someone who's going to continue to lift people up. He is going to continue to bring the best out.
Yeah, he will speak challenge, which is different. You'll see him call the Pharisees a brood of vipers, or I think John says that, but then he calls the Pharisees whitewashed tombs, and so you see some harsh language, but it's to people who are unreceptive, and it's challenge. And so challenge and encouragement can look similar, and if someone is walking down a path of destruction and death, encouraging them in that path is not love.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like if you have a friend and you're like, I just need to encourage them. I need to encourage them. But they're making decision after decision that is hurting them and has consequences in their life. Encouraging love in that way might be harsh rebuke, where it says the things you're doing are not of the Lord. You know, that might be what's encouragement there. And you see that from Jesus, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Otherwise, speak with gratitude. Ephesians 5, speak with gratitude. Ephesians 5:4. Nor should there be any obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking, which are out of place, but rather thanksgiving. That goes back to this idea of, I think it's really easy for Christians to still have the obscenity, the foolish talk, or the coarse joking. You know, it's not swearing, and it's not terrible, but if your grandparents heard it, or if your pastor heard it, you'd probably be like, I shouldn't be saying that. You know, if it crosses any sort of like racial,
you feel like
sexual,
you need to apologize for what you said.
Yes. Or if you said it in a different context, if it wasn't okay, you know, like, oh, I'm just joking with my friends and so it's fine. But if I said the same thing in the workplace or in a classroom, or if I said this to a superior, like, you should be able to say the same things you're saying in every single setting. Yeah. Like the way you talk to your friend should be the same way you can talk to your parents. If not, then you're putting on masks and you're faking one or the other. You know, you're either faking unrighteousness among your friends and you're speaking in that way to connect, which isn't Christ-like, or you're faking righteousness in front of the people who you're trying to please, which again is not Christ-likeness. Yeah. So instead of doing those things, speak in gratitude. You know, be grateful, love and encourage and speak to one another in that way, and that will drastically change the way you communicate.
Yeah. So then lastly, we would say speak the gospel. We look in Romans chapter 1, verse 16. Paul writes, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for all who believe." And so speak the gospel, share the truth of Jesus in every aspect of your life. That can be in like hardcore evangelism, like John 3:16. This is who Jesus is. But it can also be in the love and the encouragement that you share to other people and how your words reflect the heart of Jesus.
Yeah, that's good.
And one thing that I've really been trying to learn and to grow in is speaking the gospel into specific contexts. Not like a lot of people think, oh, yeah, sharing the gospel is this huge keynote speech that I need to have prepared. And like, that's why we're scared to go and share the gospel, is because we think we need to get up on stage with a microphone and have a 20-page PowerPoint presentation to share the gospel with this person on the street. Where it's like, no, like sharing the gospel can be speaking into a specific situation. Like someone comes up to you and says like, hey, like, I just can't get over, like, I hate that I'm doing this. I can't get over it. It's like, well, okay, Jesus died to give you freedom from that. Like that's the gospel. That's speaking the gospel.
Yeah.
Without the 20-page keynote speech. Like that's the simplified, like in that moment, in this space, this is what you need. And of course the answer is Jesus, but it's like, okay, if someone else is like, I'm just so brokenhearted. Okay, well, Jesus is there for the brokenhearted. He's present with you. Yeah. Like, and learning how to take the gospel and point it into a specific direction, and not just laying it out, the huge blanket statement, you know, but speaking specifically into that situation.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard this, but Takeoff, the rapper, part of Migos. Did you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
That he was shot and killed last night, I think. So I have a group message with some of my friends, and a lot of who are not believers, and they were talking about it, and they were just like, I can't believe it. He's 28. He was just living his normal life, like Christian, because things like this happen all the time, and I have to believe there's some greater hope than that. And I had like 3 people respond back, and they were like, what do you mean by that? You know, or like, hey, would you? And one guy was like kind of upset. He was like, how could you say that? You know, but we got to have a really good conversation just because I didn't jump in and just use my words to continue in the same train of thought other people were. I tried to bring some hope there, and hope brought life, and who knows what God will do with those things. But speak the gospel in everyday situations to the people who need it, which is everybody.
Yeah.
So good.
Super good.
Super good.
Use your words, encourage someone today, love someone today, with the gift that God has given you. That is your words. And we will catch you next time. Peace.
Bye.